Well, let's consider what we can do when we're in the thick of it, how we can cope with the adversity. Number one, don't give in to self pity. Self pity leads to depression. Depression leads to self condemnation. Take responsibility for yourself, but don't blame yourself. Taking responsibility means you're going to do something about the situation. Blaming means you are waiting judgment. When the storms of life come, the best way to overcome them is to face them head on and take responsibility for making some actions to make the situation better. Blaming yourself is an invitation to capsize. Just a note here, we do tend to get depressed as the problem wears us down. Never make a major decision when you're depressed. Okay, your focus is going to be blurry and your perspective is going to be distorted, so don't do it. Number two, don't give in to bitterness. Don't blame others. You can't afford to carry that excess baggage of bitterness in your life. Hebrews 12:15 says, see to it that no one misses the grace of God and that no bitter root grows up to cause trouble and defile many. Don't let yourself defile yourself. If anyone had reason for somebody to blame, it was Joseph. But instead, he chose to forgive. In Genesis chapter 45, verse 4, he says, I'm your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed. Do not be angry at yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. Now, that's not bitterness, that's graciousness. And don't blame God. When things go wrong, we often reject the person that we need the most. You may want to rebel against God, but instead turn the problem over to Him. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 16 says, let us then approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and grace to help us in our time of need. Third thing, there's some sources of strength in our lives. First of all, God's plan is a source of strength. Romans 8:28 says, in all, we know that in all things God works for the good of those that love Him and have been called according to His purposes. In the life of a Christian, God makes all things, even the bad things, work out for good. People use situations to destroy us, but God can use them to develop us. He'll take the situation you're going through, even if it's a terrible one, and He will use it to bring about some awesome goodness that you could not even imagine. When you're relying on God's plan, there's hope that says, you meant it for bad, but God meant it for good. You meant it to destroy me, but God used it to develop me. You meant it to tear me down, but God used it to build me up and make me stronger and a more mature person. God can turn failures around and bring good out of them if you give Him the opportunity.